How's it going, folks? Welcome back to the garage. I'm Scooter, obviously. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. The channel where I turn my bad financial decisions into mediocre at best content. Hey, I can call it like I see it. Anyway, I was working on the Outlander the other day. Come to find out, one of my trailing arms is bent. Was putting brake pads in, kind of looked at it at a distance, and the left side just didn't look right, so I put a level on it. Oh, and I apologize, you'll probably hear a go-kart ripping around because my daughter's out there riding hers. The left side was bent, is bent. I put a level on it, and it was worse with the level than it actually looked when I looked at it. So I bought a stretch kit, got a good deal on a used kit. Guy said it only had about 300 miles on it. So the plan is to put that in today, or at least the rears anyway. We'll get the rears done today. I'll do another video on the fronts, and I'll probably only show one side because that's a little more complicated than the rear. Well, I guess both are kind of complicated, but the front there's a little more to deal with. But yeah, so I don't know if it's going to show up in the video for you guys or not. If you can tell, yeah, it's not really showing up, but you can see that it's leaning in this way, and it's also leaning in at the top. So it's pointing toward the middle of the machine and also leaning in at the top. You can tell just by the angle of the axle that it's definitely not right. And when I put the tire on, it looks even worse, believe it or not, than it does currently. So we got some high lifter stretch trailing arms we're going to be putting in it today. I got the pair there, got wheel bearings in them already, and the swing arm bearings are already in them. And that's the kit for the front, all the control arms. I've already got ball joints, bushings, all that kind of stuff. One thing I will say, if you're planning on doing this yourself, if you can afford it, have them put the wheel bearings in and the trailing arm bearings, and then the front have them do the ball joints. I only say that because if you don't own a press and you say, oh, I'm going to use my own stuff, you're going to struggle with it a bit. Wheel bearings are fairly simple to do without a press. Ball joints are another story entirely. And another thing, if you do buy a kit and you do decide to put all that stuff in, my advice to you would be get all new parts. Just replace everything. Unless you've only got like 100 miles on the machine, just buy all new parts. It's much easier. There's less risk of being stuck because you damaged something taking it out and trying to put it back into a different control arm. There's just it can be done. I'm not saying it can't be done, so don't start yelling at me in the comments. It can be done. It's just a little more of a risk, especially if you're in a pinch and you're trying to get it done so you can go on a ride, or whatever the situation may be. But with all that BS aside, we'll start digging into this. Start disassembling. You got to unbolt the brake line. There is one rivet that I'm going to have to drill out, because for whatever reason Can-Am riveted one spot in and then bolted it in two other places for the brake line. Whatever. Anyway, without further ado, let's see if I can get you guys in the stand here so you can kind of see what it is that I'm trying to do. There we go. That's not a bad angle. Alright, so we're going to start by taking out the shock and disconnecting the sway bar link. You don't have to necessarily take the shock completely out. I'm going to, simply because I've had this apart before, and it is a fight to get the trailing arm lined up with the swing arm bolt while the shock is dangling here, because the shock doesn't move this way. The shock only swings away from the top. The angles of the shock mounts are opposite each other, so when you try to pull it back this direction to give you enough room to get that in there, you're fighting two things at once, and you don't need to do that. It's just one extra bolt to take the shock completely out. Not really a big deal at all. Getting it lined back up, however, as you'll see when we get to that point, if you haven't somebody around that can help you, somebody that owes you a favor or whatever, like I said in the rear differential install video, if you got somebody that can help, grab them. It makes your life a lot easier. But let's get stuck into this. These are the swing arm, the sway bar link bolt and the shock bolt are both 15 millimeter on both ends. What happened there? You guys fell asleep on me. You missed the whole thing. Nah, that's not true. Remember that thing I said about mediocre content? Yeah, camera ran out of memory. So anyway, it's all the same on this side, so we'll go over that, and the couple differences that are on that side I'll explain when we start putting that side back together. I did already take the swing arm nut out. You guys, I don't think it's in the shop, but it's right up here. I'll get you a shot of it here in a minute. I did already loosen that up. It's a 24 millimeter on both sides. Both sides are a lock nut, so only one side is going to loosen up. Because obviously only one nut's going to come loose at a time. And then you just drive it through. We'll get to that too. You drive it through from whatever direction the nut came off. And then that's obviously the way it goes back together. But anyway, since you guys missed it, I'll go back over for the rest of the class. 15 millimeter on the shocks. Boy, I must have eaten my Wheaties today. I put these back on. Because I actually did take the lift out, cut it down not that long ago. I just didn't film it because it took a little bit longer than I was honestly expecting. Wasn't terrible, but it did take some time. Come on, you. There we go. I can't remember if I said it or not yet, but I am going to take the shock completely out just because it's one less thing you gotta fight with when you're putting it back together. Get that bolt out of there. The only real difference between the two sides is on the, well, if you're looking at the back of the machine, it would be the right hand side. You gotta take the brake caliper and stuff off. And as I said, there was one rivet that had to be drilled out, which, you know, obviously isn't a big deal. It takes 2 seconds. You never drill them out before. They can get a little bit frustrating, especially when they start to spin, because they're going to, because it's a rivet and they're not really, you know, they're kind of meant to be slightly more permanent than what they are, or what they end up being when you drill them out. Any of you guys that have worked, I keep saying guys, any of you folks that have worked on snowmobiles before, or do replacing body panels and stuff, you know the struggle that is drilling rivets. That out of there. My husky's outside just losing her mind. Can you guys hear that? Not really sure what her issue is, but it's just because she can't see me. I'm in the garage and she can't get to me, and it's driving her crazy. She's a bit of a ham. Oh boy, definitely ate my Wheaties the day I put this back together. Inside. Boy, this one's gonna fight right to the bitter end, isn't it? Now, according to the High Lifter's website, these stretch trailing arms will work with a lift kit. Same with Super ATV with the front control arms. It's gonna, you know, if you've got a puck lift like this, it's gonna change the geometry, you know, slightly from what they would have initially intended. but it should still all work the same, especially if it's just a puck lift. The only thing really different is you're just putting more strain on your springs. There we go. Pop that bad boy out of there. Set her on the floor. I'm going to take and flip this up out of the way. Axle nut is a 32 millimeter. Bend that. Get that bent around. Try not to break it. Although I do have extras if I need it. This one's gonna... Oh boy. Come on, you. Get out of there. A whole lot of dirt and crap in there. I'll have to put a new cotter key in it when we're done. Figure out what I do with my 32. There she be. There you go. We're just gonna zip this off. There we go. Excellent out. Take your washer off. Now you should be able to pull the hub. Pull the hub right off. That'll get the axle loose. Now, for the fun part, we got to drive that bolt. Actually, before I go and do that, I'm gonna go ahead and take this swing arm bushing out because I need it for the new arms. Yeah. Alright, sorry about that little pause there, folks. I had to talk to the missus for a second. Happy wife, happy life. You know. Yeah, I'm gonna pop this swing arm bushing or sway bar bushing out while I'm right here and while it's easy to get at. Just a metal pin and then a couple of rubber bushes on either end. Push the metal pin out first, and then it makes it easier to get the rubber pieces out of there. Make sure to keep everything together because I have a bad habit of setting stuff down and then wondering where I put it. Let me put that here. You guys hang on to that stuff for me, okay? All right, but anyway, all kidding aside. Try to get you guys a better view of the swing arm bolt here. Alright, that's it. This little beauty right here. You'll need preferably a rubber mallet to start tapping it out, and then once you get it to where it's flush with the end, you're going to have to use a hammer and a screwdriver to push it the rest of the way. But we're just going to, rubber mallet. I snapped it the other day beating on something. I don't even remember what it was. That way, just use a rubber mallet. That way you don't mar up the threads or hit it too hard and peen the end of it over. There's also a spacer on there. There should be one on each side. Make sure you put those back in when you're done. And we're going to get our hammer and screwdriver. Oop, actually, you know what? We can tap that just a little bit farther. Tap it till it's flush and you can't hit it anymore. Sorry if my head's in the shot. We're just going to tap it through. Usually once you get it past what would be the end of this trailing arm, you can go to the other side and just grab a hold of it with a pair of pliers or something and just pull it the rest of the way out. Make sure when you're tapping on it though that you don't get the screwdriver caught between the end of the bolt and the hole there, because if you do, what'll happen is as you're driving it in, it'll drive it in at an angle and it'll mar up the end of the threads trying to push it out. Make sure you've got it as close to centered as you can get it. Obviously it's blind. It's a blind hole. You can't see in there, so you're not really sure what you're up against. So just, another one of those times where taking your time goes a long way. And I'll pop you guys up over here. take a little short flight, and there's the other end of the bolt. Like I said, you usually just grab it, slide it out. The trailing arm itself is a pretty tight fit inside of there, so it will hold itself there typically. Your mileage may vary on that one. I can't speak for your machine, but one piece of advice I will give, and I'll do this beforehand, is make sure you grease this bolt before you put it back in. It'll make your life so much easier getting it out next time. So we're gonna run back over to this side. You guys set back up here where you can see what's going on. Hope you don't get motion sick. Alright. Right about there. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is, and actually if the axles are still in it too, it'll help hold it in place so it doesn't, the arms don't just fly out of there. Now you're just going to grab it and basically just wiggle it back and forth till it slides out like thusly. And you should, I say should, I don't know if you guys can see me or not, we're going to turn you this way a little bit. You should be able to slide the axle right out of it. You may have to give her a few love taps with your rubber mallet. Don't use a metal hammer. I mean, at worst, use a brass hammer if you have one, but don't hit the end of that axle shaft with a metal hammer. It'll mushroom the threads over, and you'll be fighting trying to get it back together. Some cases, woo, okay, that works too. Some situations you may actually end up either buying a new axle or having to take it to somebody and have them cut the end of the threads off so you can get your nut back on there. Just don't do it. Use a rubber mallet. Another thing, when you're putting these types of kits on, a lot of times your seals will get messed up, or like in this situation, the bearing itself popped apart, which isn't terrible because there isn't anything there's a small groove. You guys probably can't see that, but there's a small groove in there that kind of locks it into place. As these start to wear in, these will want to come off when you take it apart. So it's not anything to worry, because this bearing was tight when it was in the machine. So if it comes apart like that, it's not a major concern. You might want to replace them if you got the money or if you got the parts in time. But yeah, just make sure you grease the hell out of these things when you put new ones in. Save yourself a lot of headache and a lot of trouble. Alright, now real quickly, I'll probably do this where you guys can't see it just because it makes things easier for me. Or try to get it in the shot here. You got your rubber bushes from almost got a piece of grass in it. Come on. We're just going to slide these in here. Imagine if you buy these brand new, you'll probably have to do the same. Put the two rubber pieces in. I hope you guys can see. Put the two rubber pieces in, and then this little steel piece goes right through the middle. If I can get it lined up. It sounded a little grittier than I'd like. Judging by the looks of things, I'm going to have to use the factory collars. These little guys, there should be one of these on either side of the swing arm. It's just a spacer and to keep it from tearing up the seal if it goes in a little crooked. Probably should have cleaned that up before I tried to jam that in there. That's what she said. I'll try to pull that one is not there. So it either means it's stuck or it's gone, which I'm leaning toward. Yeah, it's gone for whatever reason. Oh, you know what? I saw a couple pieces laying on the floor. I wasn't really sure what they came from. Now I know what they came from. 1 second, folks. Yep, that'd be it. Now, I'm pretty sure there's one of these on either side. I could be wrong in that. Not entirely certain. I should actually probably look that up just to be safe. I'm gonna clean up in there a little bit. There's a lot of dirt, mud, and stuff like that in there. Now I can't remember. I'm gonna have to go step away from you guys for a second and go look at this other side. There's one there. Is there one on this side? Yes, there is. Okay. So there are. Oh, and I found the factory one right there. The guy ran away from me. So we'll put these in. These kind of need to be there. These ride up against the seal to keep dirt and stuff from getting in, and also give it a metal surface to pivot off of, as opposed to just pivoting off the end here. You just gotta pop it in there like that. Real quick, real easy, not much to it. Now, like I said, I've never done this before, so this may be, you guys may get a good laugh out of this. Actually, that is much, much easier than I thought it was going to be. Again, you can, according to their website, you can use your factory axles with these, and it would appear that that is correct, because that axle actually fits really well. Now, the thing of it is, you're going to want to get everything set up on the other side first before you start bolting things back in. If you start putting this together and then you go to put the swing bolt back in, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to fight with it. It's a pain. I tried it. It doesn't work very well. So we'll jump over to the other side. We'll get that one torn apart. Get the new arm in it, and then we'll get the swing arm bolt back in, and I'll show you guys putting that side back together. I won't show you this side because obviously it's just a reverse order, but because I lost my memory card there for a minute, I'll show you all the stuff with the brakes and things of that nature. So we'll jump back to the other side and we'll start pulling things apart and then getting it stuck back together as best we can. Grab these two little bushes just so we got them, and bring you guys along with me. Take another short flight here. Try to get you guys set back up where you can see what's going on. Really need to hire a cameraman. I think that would make my life a lot easier. Alright, sorry, got to sneak in front of you here for a second. Yep, like I said, mediocre content. Alright. So that everything's kind of somewhat in the shot there. Here we go. That'll work. Okay. Now, same on this side. Gonna pull it apart. I've already switched the sway bar bushing into the new one, so that's already done. I started pulling this one out too, so I could see if there was a piece. Those little spacers, if there was one on each side. So we're just gonna grab this guy, and this one will come out, usually comes out a lot easier. I'm not really sure why that is, but it just does. This is actually an Eastlake axle, and I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed so far. It's got good tight fitment, where the niche axle on the other side does not. It's actually fairly loose in the differential right here. Like, there's a little bit of play there, and that's to be expected, but the other side is far worse than that. So we're just going to take and we're going to jam these little metal pieces back in here. Again, don't forget them. It will go back together without them, but when you see them laying on the floor, you're really going to hate yourself. And actually, funny story, I'll tell you guys a little story. We'll do a little story time here. How's that? I was working on one of my big trucks today, which I haven't shown you guys yet. Hopefully I will at some point. And I was putting new brakes on. And I got to the point on the second side where I was like, oh, alright, we're good. You know, shoes are in. Everything's looking hunky-dory. And I looked down and there's two of the retaining springs laying on the floor. And I said, oh, that ain't good. So, yeah. My dumb move of the day. Come on. There we go. And actually, for whatever reason, I think these new, those new pieces may be a little bit bigger, because it's not exactly going back in as easy as it should be. Certainly not as easy as it came out. Yeah. Or it might just be because we already have the other side in and it's putting pressure against it. I mean, obviously with suspension components you want them tight. You don't want stuff flopping around all over the place. You know what, just for the sake of my sanity and your guys' time. Whoa. Wasn't ready for that. I'm going to pull this back out. We're going to grab the ones, the factory ones, and put those in there. Pop them bad boys in there. Yeah, these are definitely, the new ones are definitely thicker than the factory ones, so if it doesn't want to fit right, just throw your factory ones back in it. I don't really see how it's going to hurt anything. Or it may just be that I'm an idiot. You guys can tell me in the comments. You gotta... I remember this being a bit of a struggle the last time I had it apart. For some reason this side comes out easy, but refuses to go back in easy. I almost want to say I had to do a fair amount of prying to get it to where it needed to be. Which isn't a big deal. You know, take your screwdriver or your drip pin or whatever it was that you used to drive the swing bolt out. Works just as good trying to get it to line holes back up. Once you get it to a point where you can see a little bit of the through hole for the swing bolt, assuming I ever get that far. Good God. Whew. I may just have to show you guys put that other side back together. Don't really want to be in the way here, but I've kind of got to be in the way here. Grab a pry bar, see if I can get that. Yeah, I don't really know what I'm going to be able to get that to walk in with a pry bar. The other thing is these wheel bearings are an extremely tight fit to the factory axles. I'm honestly at a loss for why this will not go back in there. Unless it's just the fact that I don't have it straight, or I don't have it in the right spot. Oh, that was exactly what it was. Yeah, I had it on a weird angle, so it was fighting itself. Let me grab my grease gun, we'll grease up that swing bolt and get that back in there. We'll get everything lined up, and then I'll show you guys putting this side back together. You don't need a ton of grease on the bolt, just, you know, enough. I kind of smear it around a little bit. Yeah, you're gonna get dirty, but I'm pretty sure if you're this far in, you already knew that anyway, so. Or maybe you didn't, and that's a total shock to you, and, well, that is what it is. Set that right there. Clean my hands off a little bit. Alright. Can you guys see anything that I'm doing? Are you even paying attention? Alright, so got to get that line back up. Yes, I know I'm in the way. I apologize. But one of us has actually got to do something around here, you know what I mean? Just a smidgen, a skosh too high. Let's see if we can do something about that. It is a bit of a fight to get this thing lined back up, to get it to go back in. Not terrible, but it is, you know, something to mentally prepare yourself for. Grab our rubber mallet, see if we can tap on it a little bit. You'll be able to tell once it hits the other side, because kind of like that, it'll just stop. Tap it back a little bit. And this is the really crappy part, and I'm going to talk to you guys from the other side because I don't want to have to use all my frequent flyer miles getting you from one side of the machine to the other. Let's step out of my way here. Like I said, this is the point where you know, grab your wife, grab your girlfriend, whoever, have them come out and give you a hand, because you will fight with this. It's just inevitable. You know what I mean? You know, you don't want to go wailing on this to try to get it lined up either. Just tap on it if it doesn't feel like it's right. You know, try to reach your hand around the other side and move things around until you can get it to go in. So let's see if I did a good job. Yep. Oh. There we go. That went much better than expected. And that would be it hitting the far end. We're gonna put this side back together, and then I'll do that side off camera. Just because I get the feeling that this video is already getting a little long. So start off, I'm gonna take my sway bar link here, what is going on there? Oh, well, we can move that up and down. Take that, we'll put that down in for now. Again, I don't remember if the video cut out beforehand or not, but the sway bar bolt and the shock bolt are two different lengths. The sway bar bolt is shorter. Make sure you put them back where they go, because the sway bar bolt will not work for the shock. It's too short. So just something to bear in mind. We'll get that pushed through there. Grab one of our 15mm nuts. Giggity. I'm sorry, I'll stop. And we're just going to tighten that back down. This is also a good point, you know, once you get this back together, make sure you go through before you put your tires on, hit all your grease points. Make sure everything's good and lubricated for your next ride. You know, I mean, realistically, I don't know that you need to grease things every ride, unless you've been riding in like sandy water or something like that, then you may want to do it. But at least, I'd say at least every other ride. It doesn't hurt, you know, it may make a mess, you can wipe the grease off later. You know, but alright, at this point I'm honestly certain that the camera gods are conspiring against me, because this time the battery died. But anyway, we'll plug along here anyway. You gotta get this brake caliper back on. While I was waiting for the camera to charge, I put the other side back together and realized that it's easier to get the shock in if you don't put the sway bar link bolt in first. So we're going to get that shock put back in there once we get the hub and everything back on. And then we'll bolt the sway bar back in. Alright, so there's a little bolt that goes right here into this hole that holds your brake line. You're going to want to go ahead and at least get that started before you put the hub back on, because you won't be able to get this bolt in once the hub and the rotor are back on, and there isn't enough room to squeeze the bolt through to get this to line back up. Ask me how I know. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and we're going to slot our hub back on here. Ever washer, throw that in place. Castle nut, zipper down. Go easy because it's kind of pulling the axle in as I'm doing it, so I'm trying to take it easy on it. And I know I said this in a previous video. I think it was putting the differential back in video. Make sure if your holes don't line up, don't back the nut off to get them to line up. Tighten it down within reason until the holes line up. Because you got to have that preload on the bearing, and you don't want the nut coming loose, because the cotter key will stop it if it does come loose, which is the whole point behind it, so it doesn't just come flying off. But you don't want that rattling around back there, because it's gonna throw your axle at a weird angle and it's gonna start chewing up your wheel bearing. So I'll just bend that down. Grab our brake caliper, slot that on there, get the bolts back in it. Which, if you're watching this, you obviously own a Can-Am, so you're definitely not a newbie to putting brakes in it. I wonder if other four-wheelers are like that. I wonder if Polaris and Yamaha and all of them have the same issues, like going through brake pads like crazy. I mean, on the rear it doesn't really help that you've only got the one side with brakes. I don't really know why they didn't put one on both sides, but the differentials are locked, so I mean, technically speaking, one brake is more than enough. But on the Gen 1s, the brake was actually up here. It was a like a driveline brake as opposed to a wheel brake. So that's a better design if you're going to do a one brake system. That's definitely a better way to go. But I mean, like I said, I'm not really 100% on why they decided to change it like that. But hey, I'm not an engineer. Right, we're gonna zip this little 10mm bolt down here. It holds our brake line in place. Don't want that flopping around all over Hell's Creation. Or God's Creation, Hell's Half Acre, however you look at it. Chef don't judge. Now we're gonna slot our shock back in there. Yeah, just like so. Oh, boy, that's still gonna fight me, isn't it? Even with that sway bar disconnected, it still does not want to go back in there. So, we can do it like this. Because I know full well that I'm not going to be able to get the shock in the bottom one if I don't do it first. Just because of the design of this shock bracket. So, just give me a minute while I struggle here. Slide that back, I can get enough. I know you guys probably can't see what's going on, but this is definitely not what I would consider fun. I gotta be doing something wrong here. The other side went right in. Let's see if I can push it out here and maybe compress it enough to get it in there. What are you thinking? Let's see over under on whether or not I can compress this enough to push it back in there. Are we taking bets on it? Is anybody paying attention? Oh boy. All that's doing is pushing the spring down. It's not at all gonna help. I swear to God, I'm only lacking like a half an inch or quarter of an inch. Which is really begging the question, is there something wrong with the frame on this thing? And maybe it wasn't the trailing arms. Nah, I doubt that very highly. I think I would have noticed that. Of course, you'd think I would have noticed that I had a bent trailing arm too, but you know, here we are. After I've owned it for 8 months. Ow, yeah. That is good. Let me, I'm gonna see if maybe if I unbolt the sway bar on the other side, if I can get this whole assembly to drop down a little bit further, maybe. Doubtful, but at this point I'm willing to try just about anything. But these are the kind of situations you're going to run into sometimes. You know, not everything's perfect. Not everything is going to go back together perfectly. You know, you just got to kind of grin and bear it, as it were. Although I don't know why I think this is going to help, because that side's not hooked up. Genius me. Can you tell I'm a little tired? Say a bigger pry bar. Bigger pry bars usually just break things easier as opposed to actually helping in any type of situation. Yeah, because that's not going down at all. Actually, try this. I'll back this up. Yeah, I won't have to get a new cotter key. That's alright, I got extras. Yeah, this is the kind of stuff you'll run into. You know, it does happen. Contrary to what most YouTubers would have you believe, we run into the same problems everybody else does. You know? How's that saying go? Life can't always be all hookers and sunshine. I think that's how it goes. Could be wrong though. Put that bolt in there. Chain that up in there. There we go. Bob's your uncle. Or, you know, maybe your uncle's Frank or whatever. I don't know. I don't even have an Uncle Bob. Until I'm trying to make light of the situation I'm in. Because I gotta say, I'm becoming a light bit frustrated. But, par for the course. Alright, so. Not sick of listening to that thing yet? Lord knows I am. Alright, so that's there, that bolt's in up there. Just gotta lift up on this a little bit. I want to at least get this bolt started before I go any further with anything else. We're in the home stretch, folks. We're getting there. I promise we will finish this at some point, even if it kills me. Alright, everything's in, everything's slotted into place where it should be, I think. I don't know, maybe the camera died again. That would be about my luck today. Listen to me complaining to you people like you care. You ever just have one of them days, you know? It doesn't seem like anything goes right. Everything wants to break your balls. Maybe you don't have balls to break, I don't know. But yeah, you know, while you guys are sitting here watching my knee and contemplating why you're watching this channel in the first place,
you should hit that subscribe button. You know, my thingy, the YouTube thingy says that 95% of you folks aren't subscribed. Which is fine. If you don't want to, hey, completely understand. There's a lot of channels I don't subscribe to, even though I do like some of their videos. But it does help us out. All your comments, all your likes and stuff like that helps the YouTube robots get us out there to more people. And I will say, I'll take you guys over to the other side here after I get this done.